Back or welcome to another level 2 live stream, and today I'm going to be jumping into a game called Blind Men. It's been a while since you've heard my voice. Ooh, I hear myself. Gotta mute myself. Whoop, forgot to do that. As I was saying, it's been a while since I've live streamed. I got this key from the developer. I'm excited to play it. The reason I asked for a key is because the main character's name is Keegan, so obviously I needed to play it then. I know nothing about this game. I know that it's some sort of story-driven game. Full disclosure, if there's no voice acting, I won't be doing voices because I'm not great at them. I wish I was. I feel like I could be. I do voices, but a lot of the times they don't match what's going on, so who knows? Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I highly doubt it. But let's go in. I know, like I said, I know nothing about this game. Oh, Keegan can be. Look at that. Keegan right away. Look, that's me right there. When I was 7, I was sent to live with my uncle. I had just lost my parents to a car accident the same night that left the right side of my face disfigured. Ooh. He did his best to make me feel welcome, but it wasn't enough. Bullied by my peers and ignored by people that were supposed to help me, I didn't fit in anywhere, and I spent most of my childhood thinking that it was somehow all my fault. Hold on, I'm going to move my mic, so I'm going to mute real quick, so I'm not, because I'm looking to the right when I talk. I know you guys can't see me, but look to the right, and mic's on the left. Let me move this real quick. Talking into the mic. One day, after I came home crying, my uncle pulled me aside and said to me, "People are fools, Keegan, blinded by their own stupidity. They seek to destroy what they don't understand. But people like you and me, we're different. We're better. Never forget that." And at that moment, it all became clear. I finally understood what I had to do. I'll follow my uncle's footsteps, and I'd show them. So, what do you think? I'm only missing the essay section of the application. Well, hello there, music. Man, I kind of like this slick acoustic guitar here. I don't know why the League even asked for one. There's nothing particularly evil about good grammar. Yeah, I suck at grammar. I laugh nervously at my own bad attempt at making a joke. The League of Evil is the highest authority when it comes to criminal activity around the world. The League of Evil, as I shall call it. They can make or destroy a supervillain's career with a single word, and even those that don't answer to them know better than to oppose them. Membership is for life, and vacancies are rare and far and in between. Even getting the opportunity to apply is difficult enough. I'm perfectly confident in my ability to deliver a flawless application, of course, but one can never be too sure. Which is exactly how I ended up asking one of my uncle's henchmen for his opinion on my application.
It is my passion. Common criminals are a dime a dozen, but being a supervillain requires true dedication.
I don't know why that's his voice, but I'm going with it.
He claps his hands together. Oh,
he's not speaking that. He claps his hands together in excitement. He's almost as enthusiastic as I am about the idea of me getting to join the League, which makes the fact that I have no idea what his name is rather embarrassing. It's not that I don't care, it's just that after a while the henchmen just sort of blend in together.
During training, we will show you a video of the boss's speech at the Allied Nations. It's wonderful. Half the room was in tears by the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I can keep the voices up. My throat's been killing me the last couple of days. It's the one about how the powerful countries abuse the vote system of the organization to legitimize their actions, isn't it? I've seen it too. It's really good.
It's not for nothing that Human Resources make all the new recruits watch it. In just a few words, you can really feel what the boss is about.
Nope.
What makes him different from all the other supervillains out there? You don't need to worry so much right from the heart and you'll do fine. Besides, you're Fink's nephew.
I'm Sphinx's nephew, okay.
It runs in the family. He said so himself, didn't he?
I groan. Don't even start. It's bad enough that people think I only got the opportunity because of him in the first place. The last thing I want is for that to actually be true. Getting into the league on my own merits is the only way I'll ever be taken seriously as a supervillain. by them and by everyone else. Not to mention, he has this weird idea about how I'm spending all my time down here is not good for me, and it's not something recent either, because intelligence agencies were always looking for my uncle. We never stayed too long in one place, and as a result, I was homeschooled for most of my life. But ever since I finished my high school studies 3 years ago, he's been trying to get me to enroll in college, an actual college with other normal people. At first, it was just subtle hints and the occasional comment, which I accepted as his way of showing he cared about my future. However, since the last month, he's been bringing me a bunch of pamphlets home. This sounds just like... This is scary how close this was my life. My dad loved researching for college when I was looking around, and I'd tell him about a college, and like the next 2 days, he'd have like this whole like background on it and statistics on it and how much it cost to go, what the student body was like, what kind of programs they had, whether that's athletics or like other extracurricular activities. This is actually kind of weird. He went as far as already telling me that if I was having problems choosing, I should study engineering like he did. Fun fact, I actually applied to Purdue because I thought I was going to be an engineer at one point. Didn't do it.
Speaking of the boss, what are you planning to tell him?
I managed to keep the application process a secret for a better part of a year, but it can't remain that way forever. As proud as it makes me that he hasn't found out yet, I'm no fool. I know that luck has played at least some part in it. Besides, I meant it when I told the henchman that my uncle is my biggest inspiration. His approval would mean a lot to me. The next time I see him, I suppose, it will be better if he hears it from me and not from the league after I got accepted. He hates being left out, and considering what I'm planning, he might just have a stroke.
Well, here's your chance. He's heading our way.
What? He's not supposed to come back until tonight. The henchman shrugs. I turn around and see my uncle walking through the door. He's never been a particularly expressive man. He looks even more serious than usual.
Good morning, boss.
The henchman salutes him, and my uncle dispenses him with a nod. As he leaves, he silently mouths good luck in my direction.
Traitor!
Oh wait, traitor! You're early. Yes, there was an explosion in the lab. There's a toxic material everywhere, and since it will take the cleanup crew a few hours to get rid of it, I told everyone to go home for the day. I love how I said I was going to do voices, and I ended up doing voices. I don't know why Fink is so distinguished, but he sounds like he might be. He actually kind of looks like a criminal, like a criminal. I look down and notice his clothes are stained with some kind of black substance. Instinctively, I take a step back. He looks down as well, shakes his head, waves his hand in a dismissive gesture. Oh, excuse me. This is just oil. I was working on my old prototype when I was informed of the explosion. Anything I can help with, boss? No. I want to clear up some space in the storage room. I'll get rid of whatever I can't get into working condition. And how many times do I have to tell you that you don't need to call me that? Sorry, I spent too much time with the henchman. It rubs off after a while, among other things. Uncle, really? That was years ago, and it only happened once, as far as I know, and only because he got eaten by a shark before it could happen again. Yes. The time the feeding cage malfunctioned and our perfectly trained sharks decided to have him for lunch instead. What an unfortunate coincidence. The corner of his lips quivered in an amused smile. I barely resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Have you had the time to go through the pamphlets? The entrance exams begin next month, so you have to submit your papers as soon as possible. No, I haven't, just so you know. I would love to, but I haven't. I spoke with Madame Mantis. She said that if you're interested in moving to America, she'd be happy to help you with anything you need. Ever since she's retired, she's amassed quite a bit of contacts in the Board of Education. In fact, if you get everything else ready before next Friday, she'll personally write you a recommendation letter. I've met her a couple times. She was a proper villain, the kind of woman that never does things out of kindness of her heart. Meaning, he either asked her for a favor or she owed him one. Either way, I bet he's only telling me this so I feel pressured into enrolling. I'm glad you brought it up because I've been meaning to talk to you about that. You have? Does this mean you've chosen a college already then? Dude, this is so scary to my life. Not exactly. Yep. Not exactly. Cut to the chase. Wow, I can't speak. Keegan, cut to the chase. What if I didn't want to go to college? He stares at me in silence for what feels like an eternity. Finally, he closes his eyes and begins to rub his temples. We've been over this before. You need something in your life. You do a good job around here, but you can't keep running around with henchmen forever. Wait. Just hear me out. The reasons I don't want to go to college is because I want to be a supervillain, just like you. In fact, I've already contacted the League. They think I've got a lot of potential, Uncle. They are just waiting for me to submit my full application. When did you have the time to do that? Save it. That's not important. Helping me out and being an actual supervillain are two completely different things. The League's application process is infinitely hard for a reason, Keegan. Many people have died trying to impress the Council. Why do you even want to be one? Uncle, please. I've gone through the curriculum for every major college in the world several times, actually. They've got nothing to teach me. I could go straight to a doctorate for every field I'm interested in. Why should I have to waste my time with frivolities, that's a cool word, when I could do something that actually matters? You're the one that always said people just don't know what's best for themselves. Well, I do. Besides, I've been helping you out practically my whole life. I'm not making an uninformed decision. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure about anything. Have you decided how you're going to call yourself? Do you have a base of operations? What about a plan? How are you going to pay for everything? Again, so weirdly how obviously I'm not a supervillain, but how this goes to real life. Do you remember the weapons dealer that sold the parts you were missing for the death ray? Turns out he also handles mercenary contracts, and he's come highly recommended in that regard. He said that he would lend me one of his bases and some people if I went over a couple of the blueprints the scientists are working on. I know it's not ideal, but it would only be I think that's a typo. It would only be for a day or two. After I'm accepted into the League, I'll have my own resources to get my own. He crosses his arms and there's another moment of silence. If you're serious about this, I won't be the one to stop you, but you're going to have to do this properly. Call the weapons dealer and tell him you won't be needing his services anymore. You'll use my lair and my men. We'll draft a contract, and if anybody asks, you rented them. Thank you, Uncle. I promise I won't disappoint you. Of course you won't. Now come, tell me more about your plan. A month later, National Museum of Science, Bonn, Germany. Oh, I said Bonn, but Bonn, Germany. I guess I gotta push the button. Pretend to adjust a strand of hair behind my ear, pressing a button in my earpiece to increase the volume. Oh, hello there.
Hey, boss, I'm in a control room. I've taken care of the security recordings. The police won't find anything of use in any of them. The men are all in their posts and ready to go, too. They'll be waiting for your signal. I'll stay here for a little while longer to keep an eye on things. Please let me know. Oh, God. Excuse me. Please let me know if you understood. I nod. All right. See you in the auditorium, boss.
As an aspiring supervillain, particularly one hoping to join the League, there are two things to be taken into account when it comes to carrying out our plans: visibility and chance of success. Just like there's no point doing something so uninspired that it barely makes it to the local news, there's no point in getting arrested on national television. Finding balance is key, and that's exactly why I've chosen Bonn's National Museum of Science as my target. It's a beautiful place, and just like its research center hosts many important scientists, its vault is home to lots of rare and expensive equipment. Despite that, under normal circumstances, there wouldn't be anything particularly worth stealing here. Hold on, I need to refresh my thing. I'm having issues on the back end here.
Reload, please.
There it goes. Okay, you loaded, game? I hold on guys, I'm having some issues. Let me load up a different, Twitch is having some issues for me right now. Let me load up a different browser and see if it'll fix it. Twitch.tv. But yeah, it's really weird how eerie this is to my life in some aspects. I gotta log in here. Oh, nope, it pulled it up automatically. Even better. Oh, I have to put a code in though. Give me that code. Copy. Sorry about this. Like I said, Twitch was having a moment there and I couldn't. Oops. Wouldn't let me do anything. Oh, I'm missing number. There we go. Okay. We should be back in business in a second. Let me pull up the dashboard. Okay. Okay. Back in business. Let me pop this over here. And we are back. Let's go. Okay. Sorry about that. Things were just having glitch issues, I guess. But starting today, the museum will be hosting the Schultz-Holt, that's hard to say quickly, collection of rare minerals. Its main piece being a famous Angelage diamond? Is that a real diamond? I assume that's a real diamond. Besides being one of the largest cut precious stones known to man, its purity and chemical composition make it one of the most versatile energy conductors in the world. In addition to the exhibit itself, the museum board has also invited Professor Schultz to give a conference at the end of the inauguration party. Schultz is both a genealogist and a political activist. He's greatly respected in both fields. To make sure that no other villain interferes, I told both the League and my uncle that I'd be planting bombs in the museum and holding the guests hostage for ransom. Very few people are willing to risk getting blown up by a first-timer after all. But actually, my real plan is... steal the diamond, kidnap Professor... I'm going to kidnap the Professor because I feel like the Professor might have information I can use later on. As a public figure involved in politics, Schultz's disappearance will be all the news will be talking about for as long as he's missing. Kidnappings are hardly my area of expertise, but all considered, they're pretty straightforward. And it's not like I'll have to deal with him for long afterwards in any case. I'm certain that both Americans and Russians will be willing to pay a hefty sum to get their hands on him. If I'd have to guess, I'd say that they'll want to claim that they were the ones that saved him, making the other look incompetent. Or maybe they'll use the opportunity to get rid of him while the blame falls on someone else. It's a great plan if I say so myself, if my nerves don't kill me first, that is. Until Schultz's conference begins, there's not much for me to do except wait. The only reason I got here at the beginning of the inauguration in the first place was in case the henchmen needed me for something. Unfortunately, that also means I have plenty of time to go over the plan in my head, including all the little details that could go wrong. I hate to admit it, but my uncle was right. Being the mastermind of a plan instead of just a person helping out is a completely different experience. But it doesn't matter. When I join the League, I'll get to tell the story whichever way I want. None of the boring parts, none of the doubt. Everything was perfect on the first try. In the end, I decided to grab a drink at the bar while I wait. The bar is actually more of a counter in one of the corners of the lobby than its own separate place. It's meant for people who want to get something to drink without having to find a place at one of the tables or wait for the servers to take their order. As I approach, the first thing I see is a man surrounded by a small group of people most of who are women. I can't get a good look at him from over here, but every once in a while the whole group erupts into laughter. After the third or so time it happens, the bartender walks over behind the counter and says something to them. He probably asks them either to lower the volume or leave, since the group begin to disperse right afterwards. Now by himself, the man takes a seat next to another blonde man. He's leaning back at the chair and begins to swing back and forth. Man, he's sexy looking. No wonder he's surrounded by women. He's pretty handsome, told you. And the man next to him isn't too bad himself either. Definitely a much better view than what I had at the lobby. A moment passes and the man in the tuxedo says something. They exchange a few words, but the expression on the blonde man's face is so unfriendly that they don't really go beyond that. If looks could kill. In any case, I don't have much time to think about it. At that exact moment, the first man turns around and our eyes meet. I look away to see if he'll do the same, but he doesn't. Instead, I can feel him staring at me until I give up and look back. He makes a gesture at the bartender to order another whatever he's having. Now with the additional glass in hand, he approaches, stopping right next to me, leaning against the counter. Hey there. Wow. Having fun? From his body language and his accent, I'd say he's American. I wave my hand in a dismissing manner. Not really. Watching the governor try to explain the merits of mineralogy has been the highlight of my evening so far. Well, these things are usually more lively as lively as events of these sorts can. Last time there was a professor from Columbia. What was his name? Anyway, he convinced the Schultz methodology is faulty. He always ends up causing a ruckus wherever they meet. But this time, the committee made sure the guest list is inoffensive as possible. You didn't hear that from me, of course. Of course. Drink? He raised his glass towards me. I saw him order it, but I didn't see the bartender pour it, so of course I'm not going to accept it. Good logic. I shake my head and pick up my own glass, almost empty by now, from the counter. No, thank you. I already have one. He shrugs and takes a sip. It's quite good, isn't it? German alcohol is one of the reasons I'm glad that the Soviets only got to keep half the country. And the other one is Germans. By now it's becoming clear that he's flirting with me. Whether he's actually doing a good job is a different point altogether. I decide to... I'll flirt back. That's what I would do in real life. Well, two can play this game. Let's see him put his money where his mouth is. Of course. One of those things is much more fun than the other. He laughs, puts down the glass, and offers me a free hand. I take it and give him a grin in return. The handshake lasts a couple seconds more than strictly necessary, and instead of simply letting go of the head, he slides his fingers across my palm. I curl my fingers ever so slightly so they interlock briefly at the end. That does it. He begins oogling me in what's possible the least subtle manner known to man. Johns, it's a pleasure to meet you. The pleasure is all mine. Don't take this wrong way, but you look kind of young for an academic. I'm still an undergrad. I'm hoping for a chance to discuss my thesis with Schultz before I submit it. Asking Schultz for his opinion about an undergrad thesis? That's quite a high bar you've set for yourself. Trust me, you don't even know half of it. So, what is it about? In simple terms, I'm researching ways to improve the accuracy of tools used to locate and harvest petroleum deposits. It would make extraction quicker, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly. Right now it's all theory, but I'm sure my calculations will lead it to be applicable. That's quite impressive. All the better for me. I like them smart. Wow. With a grin, he puts his hand on my shoulder and leans closer until his face is practically touching mine. His breath feels hot against my ear and mixed with the faint smell of alcohol coming from him. It's enough to send a shiver down my spine. Maybe we could discuss some of your ideas in private? I'm tempted, so very tempted. But if I miss Schultz, my thesis supervisor will have my head. I take a step back, and he lets go of my arm. What a shame, but I understand. Next time, then? He picks up his glass, chugs down the rest, winks at me before turning around and walking away. As soon as he's out of my sight, I let out a sigh. What gall. If I had been anyone else, this could have ended ugly for him. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm not planning to see him again anytime soon. There's a buzzing buzzing sound from one of the speakers nearby. I turned my attention to it. First call, please proceed to your seats. The conference will begin in 15 minutes. When the announcement is done, I head towards the auditorium. Other than the first two rows, which have been reserved for politicians and press, the seats aren't numbered. Terribly inconvenient for people that would rather secure a good place without having to enter early or wait too long in a line for it. On the other hand, it's perfect for someone like me who'd rather not have a name attached to their tickets. When one of the ushers takes my ticket, I recognize him as one of my uncle's men, just like the henchman said. He directs me towards a free seat at the corner of one of the middle rows. Perfect. Nothing would ruin a dramatic entrance like having to ask people to stand up so I can get to the stage. Once I'm in my seat, it quickly becomes obvious why no one had taken it yet. Sitting next to me is the Blob Man from the hall, reading the program with an expression on his face, just as unfriendly as the one he had back there. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" He looks at me, shakes his head, and goes back to reading without a single word. Under any other circumstance, I wouldn't care, but come on. He talked to the other man at the bar, but I don't get more than a side glance. It's entirely possible for him just to be some regular guy with bad social skills and poor German, but he didn't even attempt to answer in English either. I decided to give my gut feeling a try, and leaning closer to him and lowering my voice so that no one else would hear, I began to speak to him in Russian. I've heard that Russians have a lot of trouble getting travel permits nowadays, even those who have never been to the Soviet Union. I can't imagine how hard it must be for actual Soviets to get out of their country. That gets his attention enough to put down the program and turn and face me. He looks like he's assessing me and trying to intimidate me at the same time. If I'm completely honest with myself, why am I interested in talking with him? Because there's something suspicious about him. It's not uncommon to find Russian expatriates in high-profile events, but in general, they're pretty easy to recognize. This man isn't one. I went through a lot of trouble to make sure no one would interrupt me today, so if there's something out of place about him, I need to know. In Russia, Sergey. I can't do a Russian accent. Me neither. But imagine, I'm just as difficult to finding someone that would teach you Russian on the side of the world. His accent is very thick, even in Russian. Thankfully, I speak fairly well, otherwise I would have regretted my decision as soon as he opened his mouth. And with all the things, it's a matter of knowing the right people. Speaking a language won't get you arrested, though. That depends on how you use it. And how do you use it? Who are you? No one of consequence as long as you don't get in my way. We exchange a look of suspicion before he goes back to reading without hesitation. Seems like I'll have to keep an eye on him. Third call. Please remain in silence for the duration of the conference. We'd like to remind you that photography is restricted to the authorized press. The lights dim until they turn off the lights completely, and the auditorium's only remaining illumination are the spotlights at the stage. A man in a suit appears from the left end of the stage, followed by Professor Schultz. He stops at the podium, and soon any hopes of conversations are drowned by the audience's applause. Please welcome Professor Hans Schultz, head of the Schultz-Holt Foundation. There's another round of applause, this time much louder. After a couple of seconds pass, Schultz holds up his hand and the whole room goes quiet. Slowly the floor next to him begins to open, and everyone watches in awe as the case in which the diamond is kept raises from it. I had seen pictures of it before, of course, but it doesn't compare to seeing it in person. As you all know, the Englage is amongst the rarest gemstones in the world. Flawless in both surface and in its interior, it allows both heat and electricity to be conducted with minimal dispersion up to... I press the button on the side of my watch. I couldn't risk bringing too much attention to my person, but I managed to fit both a communicator and a small laser in my watch. At my signal, the door busts open and the henchmen appear, while the ones that had been posing as ushers hurry to lock the doors behind them. My uncle only ended up lending me about half a dozen of them, but since the people inside here have no way to tell, there are more than enough. There are whispers and confusion at first, but the room goes completely quiet when Schultz slams his hand against the podium. What is the meaning of all this? Security! Get these people out of here! I stand up and I'm escorted to the stage by one of the henchmen, whose name I should probably know by now. While we walk, he goes ahead and hands me the control of the bombs. It's mostly for show, since we only wired enough bombs to mess up some of the less important rooms slightly, while the rest are decoys set to release smoke. Of course, they don't know that. There has been a slight change of plans here, Professor. As I take to the podium, I put down my control in front of me, and I signal the henchmen to restrain Schultz. They both get off the stage, and he leads the professor towards the side of the auditorium. Apparently I speak Spanish now. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. If you cooperate and do exactly as you're told, no one will get hurt. Is there a way to... voices, Spanish. Let's turn the Spanish voices off. Is there no, voices in English? Yeah, there's no voices. It's only voices in Spanish. That's weird. When you look back at this moment in a few years, you'll realize that this was the most important day of your lives. Scientific achievements, political careers, everything you've done will pale in comparison to this instant. And this is because today you'll become part of history. You'll have the honor of witnessing the birth of one of the greatest supervillains known to man, Dr. Cyclops. As of right now, you have the honor of being my hostages. Hopefully the government values your lives. I'm briefly interrupted by the sound of talking from amongst the seats. I decide to ignore it and continue. Enough to pay the... When it happens again, I stop speaking and begin to look over the crowd, searching for the source of the interruption. Most of the guests have either have a look of fear or discomfort in their faces, some of them even shaking their heads when they notice me looking at them. What do I have henchmen for if they can't even keep people from talking at the same time as me? Finally, I notice that the henchman is out of place, standing in the middle of the row rather than at his place next to Schultz. He seems to be arguing with someone. I take a step down from the stage to get a better look, and I recognize the other person as the man from the lobby.
What are you doing? Sit down.
I'm going to the bathroom, unless you want me to get sick all over the floor. He stands up and gives a few steps forward. Actually, it's more awkward, stumbling. He looks really drunk.
Hey, I said you weren't going anywhere.
The henchman grabs his arm to stop him. Suddenly, the man turns around and punches him square in the nose, knocking him out cold in the process. Stepping around the henchman's unconscious body, he puts a hand inside his jacket and takes out a gun. At first, I'm amused by the idea of getting shot by an overeager drunk, but he manages to point it right at me just fine. Agent Hunter, Global, you're all under arrest. Shit. People begin to turn and look at and whisper at each other until the crowd's attention is divided between the two of us. Meanwhile, none of my henchmen move, unsure what to do. The only security on site was supposed to be the museum's guard and some of the local police stationed outside. There's nothing to make us think that Agent Global would be here. An agent of Global would be here, let alone armed. The henchmen could deal with him through sheer numbers alone, but I need to keep them under control. Keep the crowd under control. If everyone begins to panic, it's not going to be good for any of us. I decide to try and bluff, so I shrug and laugh it off. Nice try, but I wouldn't risk a shootout in a room full of civilians, or for me to blow this place sky high. I pick up the control and put my index finger on the big red button in the middle of it. See this? My men have put bombs all around the museum. One false move and I'll push it. With you still inside? No, I don't think so. As for your henchmen, my aim is pretty good, and something tells me that none of them want to be the one that gets their boss shot. Guess we'll have to see who's faster. Get 'em! The henchmen are getting ready to fire when I'm blinded by a flash of white light. Out of instinct, I drop the control and raise my arm to cover my eyes, but the movement makes me lose my balance and I end up falling back.
Grenade! Everybody get down!
Hold your fire! My vision is blurry, so much that I barely see the second flash of light when it goes off. I hear people begin screaming, but the noise sounds distant, as if it was in another room altogether. It's not much of a relief, but at least that means that they were flashing grenades rather than fragmentation ones. It takes a couple of seconds for my eyesight to come back completely and a couple more for me to regain enough strength to be able to stand up. I look around. Half the henchmen are on the floor, covering their eyes in pains, and the other half still look too confused to do anything. Upon realizing that I was blocking the way anymore, the people in the seats began to run towards the exits in a panic, pushing each other and screaming. By the time the henchmen tried to regain control of the situation, the whole room has descended into chaos. In front of me, Agent Hunter points his gun in my direction and begins to approach, or at least he's trying to. His hand is shaking so much that it's obvious that he is just as disoriented as I am. I frowned. If it wasn't him, then who? He looks at me and then at the floor and then stops. I look down as well and realize why. It's the control. He hurls himself forward and grabs it. I take the opportunity to kick the gun out of his other hand, but he holds my leg and pulls me down with him. We both end up on the floor trying to wrestle the control out of each other's hands. While Hunter may be stronger, right now I'm the one in better condition, so I manage to hold it against him. We keep rolling around on the floor until I manage to flip over and pin him down. Has someone ever told you that this is your best angle? Shut up and give it back. As we continue to struggle for the control, I notice someone get on stage out of the corner of my eye. I turn my head and see the blonde man from the lobby walking up to the diamond's case and lift it up. It's a brief distraction, but it's enough to give Hunter the upper hand when he needs to push me off of him. When I fall back, the control is sent flying in the air and Hunter and me stare at it as it lands right on the detonator. Well, shit. Of course, nothing happens. It's a decoy, isn't it? Hunter shakes his head in disbelief, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. But instead of looking angry, he seems rather amused by the whole situation. Having decided that his immediate business with me is done, he runs past me and onto the stage where he catches up with the other man. And I think that's where I'm going to end this. This was a brief stream. I know it wasn't very long for y'all, but I'll be back later tonight, probably with some Overwatch going on. That's going to be exciting, but thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for this early look of Blind Men, and the fact that I'm in this game is cool. So follow us on YouTube at Level 2 Gamers, or Level 2 Gaming, sorry, and you'll see you can potentially watch the rest of this. I don't know if I'm going to stream the rest of this or Let's Play or what. We'll find out, but thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, welcome to the second level. Bye!